Good. Good. Excellent. Well, the slight problem I've got at the start here, Derek, is you guys haven't asked me what you want to see yet.
You tie whatever you fancy. That little emerger that you put on Facebook is obviously one.
Yeah, I've got that set up just now then. If there's anything wild trout wise, anybody knows my flies, that anybody wants to see, then just shout out, guys, and I can see what I can do. Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Right, so we'll start off then with this little emerger. Interesting. Somebody got feedback.
It's feedback from somewhere. Is it John?
Mike Oliver.
John, Mike. No, Mike's on mute, so it's not him.
It was because it came up to he came up and highlighted on the screen. It was him.
It's maybe muted now then. Anyway, so what we've got here is we're at the time of year, certainly up here anyway, where we have lots of blue wing olives on the go. So this is my blue wing olive pattern. I'm just getting it set up. I'll show you a couple of times if once is not enough. Now, as it stands, usually it's about a size 18. I have a size 16 A14A partridge hook in the device at the moment. So that's a K14A Caddis emerger. Now, before I go any further, guys, I've got the camera facing away from me. So if there's any problem with any you can see, just shout out, okay? Right then, so that's a K14A size 16 hook, and the thread I'm using here is light olive Semperfli classic waxed, and this is an 8/0. Yeah, in fact,
Alan,
yeah.
Is there any chance you can lift the clipboard up so it takes away the clip from the camera because it's focusing on the clip, my friend?
Okay, no problem. Give me a sec.
Or turn it the other way up or whatever.
Try that.
Better. Yeah. Put the camera down further so that it's level with the hook at the center.
Sorry to stop you.
Not at all. So what else do you need? The camera up or down? How's that?
That's fine, Alan.
Yeah.
If you keep touching the vice, it'll come into focus on the hook. There you go.
Excellent. Okay, good lads. So we'll start that again. So this is a K14A barbed emerger hook from Partridge. Thread I'm using is Semperfli classic waxed watery olive 12/0. Okay. Now what I'm doing is a blue wing olive, or my imitation of blue wing olive. A fly that's extremely effective at this time of year, and one that I have a lot of success on. So all I'm going to do to start off with, guys, I'm just going to catch in the thread, cut off the waist, and just run about halfway along the body. Okay. Now for the tail of this fly, I'm going to use some Coq de Leon, dark pardro. And I'm just going to pull a few fibres off the feather. Nothing, no rocket science, nothing startling, no earth-shattering technique here. I've just pulled a few fibres off. I don't bother counting them out. You go 3 if you like, but I'm just going to lock a few of these in place here. So they're going to act as a tail. And then I'll just take my thread just to the start of the bend of the hook, okay? Lift the tail fibres up and then just drop a single turn in below there. All right. And then just trim off the waist, clean house. Now I'm tightening the thread up here slightly, guys. And the reason for that is that I'm going to use the thread as my rib. So you can see, because I've tightened that, you now see the rib. shown through, which gives you your segmentation. Now it makes for a fine fly, as in a delicate fly. So just to help counteract that, so you can get more than one trout out of the fly when it bursts the teeth, I'm just going to put on just a touch of clear varnish onto the body. And I'll just smooth that off, and I'll just let that draw in, and then that's generally enough just to make sure that fly is going to last. That's a little bit of time. So next step, as you know, I like to tie a lot of deer hair, except in this case here, to keep everything nice and fine, what I'm actually using now is a poly yarn. So this is Centerfly poly yarn, light grey for my wing, okay? I'll just take a section of the poly yarn. Put that off there. Now this stuff it's folded over. I don't know if you can see that. So what I like to do, so the wee folds in it just to stop it fraying as it's sitting in the card. So I'll take my dubbing needle through, just open these sections up. There we go. Okay. Then you get a nice fluffy material to work with. Now for this particular fly, and clearly using the whole hank, if you like, is going to be too much. So what I'll do is I'm going to split this. I'm going to work with a much reduced section, as you can see. Yeah, and you can play about with the wing till you think you've got it to what you want it to be, and with regards to thickness. What I like to do is trim off the end, so I'm working on a nice straight wing like that. Yeah, so I'm going to set that up roughly about to the start of the bend of the hook there, just the start of the tail, and I'm just going to catch that in. Leave it slightly longer than what you want it to be finished with, as you'll see in a second. I'll show you. A few locking turns. Then what I'm going to do, I'm just going to lift the wing straight up. Yeah. Take my scissors, come across the top, trim that down, and then when that folds back, you're getting that nice angle cut. Clean house, don't need this section here. And there we go, guys, that's me set the wing off. Okay. Just a couple of turns just to secure it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that wing forward, make sure I don't catch the tail, and just drop a single turn of thread just in behind, just to help to support that. Yeah. I'm going to put a couple of turns on here, guys, just because I notice I've caught the thread in the hook point, and it's just frayed slightly. So my next job is I'm going to put in a hackle. Now the hackle's optional. You can actually get away with using spiky garters or some seal's fur, even. Just put in a dub thorax and brush that out. Yeah. But I prefer the hackle because I feel it gives you a nicer shape. So this is a dun hackle. So sticking with the grey theme for this olive. And I'm just going to clean a few fibres off and then just catch the hackle in, like so, and clean off the stem. As I said, nothing drastic, guys, nothing, it's just all standard technique. And then just working my way forward, winding my hackle on, yeah. Brushing each turn back as I come forward. Right up to the back of the eye of the hook, lock it in place. Oh, that was handy, it broke off there. And then I dampen my fingers and then just draw the hackle back. Pull all those stubborn fibres back out the way and just build up a head. And I've locked it. And if you take your thumbnail and your fingernail and grip behind the hook, right behind the collar of the eye of the hook, yeah, and you squeeze like that there, it forces the thread back up on itself. Okay. It's a good technique, that, just to make sure that the thread's not coming forward when they're tying the fly off. And then my last job, or almost my last job, I'm throwing a whip finish. Yeah. So give me your finger and your thumbnail, just as you tighten that thread up so that it draws in that direction, not off the front. Oh, I've touched the phone. Is the picture still okay? I'll take that as a yes.
It's slightly out of focus, but we can see it.
Okay. Okay, sorry about that. Is that okay? You see better now? So I've just dropped a little bit. Sorry? Oh, go on.
It's already experienced. I can see it.
Good, good. Now I've just dropped a little bit of brush coat varnish onto the thread there, and I'm just going to wind that in, whip finish that in there. So I've done a whip finish already. It's belt and braces stuff, guys. And there's a second one. Same again with my finger and thumbnail, and just draw that slightly. Now, you can fish this with a full hackle in it, but I don't. I much prefer, as it's an emerger fly, I want it to sit right into the surface film, like, so it's going to sit like this, okay? So what I'm going to do, so draw all the hackle fibres underside forward and cut that off, single cut, along with the thread. And just clean the house there a little bit. And that, guys, that's it. That's all there is to it, yeah? Now, our wing, you can see that. It's, despite the fact that it's a small fly, it's easy to track in the water, and everything except probably the most turbulent of water. The hackle gives it the stability that you need, but I still, even if I'm using polyarm, I'll still take some gink or some floating gel. Other choices are available, and I'll drop it and rub it into the hackle and into the wing and a little bit along the back of the tail to help allow and make sure that when I cast that in there, that this is going to sit like that on the surface, okay? You see that?
Nice and simple.
That's it. Yeah, it's very simple. Just blue wing olive. Size 16, this particular one. I'll do them down to about size 18. 14 to 18, pretty much. 3 sizes that I'll have. Okay. How's that? Any questions, guys?
If anybody's got any questions, if you unmute yourself, ask the question, then remute.
And then just the way you finish your fly off there with the varnish,
Yeah.
I do the same, except I don't do a half inch. I use a half inch all my life. What I'm showing, but my bob is hanging off the hook. I put a swipe of varnish or super glue, and with my thumb and finger carefully and pull it back, and I'm winding on. That's my head form. Then when the last part of the wetness, then I whip finish or half inch off. That's it, finished in. Same theory as that.
Very same. The other way to do it there, the only thing to watch when you're doing that, either way, what you're doing or what I do here, you just to watch that you're going to end up, as you can see there, there's a little bit of varnish on my whip finish tool there. Yeah. Every now and again I go in and clean that off. Yep. One of the ways to counteract that, I mean, okay, you just go back to putting it in dry and then coming in with your dubbing needle at the end if you want. The reason I put the varnish on the thread is because there's a lot of soft material in there, and the last thing I want to do is come in, big loaded up varnish needle, and then go and hit onto the hackle and end up with the delicate hackle, end up drawing it up. Exactly. The other way to do it would be, instead of having the wet varnish on there and doing your wet finishes, is put your 2 or 3 turns of wet varnish on and then put finish dry thread on top of that, yeah? But always do 2 wet finish heads. I'll do one, put the varnish on, and then do the second one. It's belt and braces, really, but it gives you that, you're making sure that you've got it secure. There's nothing worse than your especially because you're fishing this, predominantly this fly, evening times up here. There's nothing worse than you've just got it tied on and you've 2 or 3 casts in and the flipping threads come off the front of the hook. Yeah. Okay,
Next
any other
October,
questions?
next October, drop down to me. I'm tying in a skillet and drop down to me. I'll show you how we do it.
Okay, yeah, no
It'll be something
problem.
of interest, you know. It's same thing, but you see how I can pluck back and whip around it.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for that. I'll look out for that one. Yeah.
What do you reckon, Alan?
Okay, you all right with that, guys?
Yeah.
Good. So that's my blue wing olive BWO. So at this time of year, terrestrial flies are hot on the menu, and this year in particular, it's been some days of terrestrial fishing's been absolutely fantastic on the rivers. So I have a fly that I call an NIP, a nip, yeah, which essentially stands for nothing in particular. Okay, and there's literally nothing to this fly. Again, I tie them in sizes 14 to 18, and all I'm using in this one is thread and polyarm. Okay. See again, same K14A hook. I've got black 12-0 classic wax thread. Catch the thread in, and then I'll just trim off the waste, and that's me ready to go. Oops, I missed a bit. Okay, so I'm going to come down about just short of halfway down the hook. Okay. Now, nothing in particular is. It's no design to imitate any specific fly. Just a nice generic looking fly pattern. So for this one, what I'm going to use is black polyarm. I've just brought the thread back forward a turn, and I'm going to let the black polyarm stick out about, as you can see here, maybe 3-4 millimeters off the front of the eye of the hook. Okay, so that would be, what's that? About 1/8 of an inch in old money. Just lock that in place. Forget about the tail section just now, if you like. And then I'm going to get some cream polyarm, just to act as a bit of a wing, but also it acts as a bit of a sighter as well, sighting post. Okay. Again, I'm just going to split half the hank, and then we come in here, and I'm going to catch that shorter. I don't want it to be sticking out the front, so I'm going to catch that. I'll just square it up a little bit, like that, yeah. And catch that in just there, shorter, and then again, just, that didn't work, did it? Speak amongst yourselves till the pro tire sorts his bobbin holder out.
You snapped it.
I'm not telling you I've snapped it. I'm just going to pretend I didn't do it.
It's easy done, though, isn't it?
That's why distraction takes a pint of Guinness.
My hands are shaking. I'm not nervous tying in front of you guys. I'm being too heavy-handed. That was a lie. Right, so I'm going to show you this NIP fly I've got. Let's start again. Catch the thread in, back of the eye, come back, just short of halfway down the hook. Take a black polyarm, tidy it up, come forward, a couple of turns, leave that, a few millimeters off the front of the eye, lock it in place, a couple of turns to lock it there, forget about the rest. Now we'll take in our a cream polyarm, square off the end, leave it shorter than the section of polyarm off the front. A couple of turns just to lock that in place, yeah. And then what I do is lift the two back sections up together, and then at a 45 angle, just cut that off. Okay, so you've got almost bivisible, or it is a bivisible style fly. With the contrast of the black and the white, which acts as an excellent sighter. What I'll do is I'll take some Vineyard peacock dubbin, black peacock dubbin, yeah. Just put on a wee bit too much there, actually. I'll take a bit off. Just putting a smidgen of that, specific term, smidgen amount. And just run that up just short of the hook shank, and I'll put a couple of turns in there. And while I've still got some left, I'll put a couple of turns of that in just below. In fact, I'll maybe a wee bit short there. I'm just putting another pinch. There we go. And I'm just going to drop that in at the front underneath the polyarn, and then go straight into my finishing the fly off, the head of the fly. Quick finish. And I'll do is show you what I meant earlier with the varnish on the thread. Drop a little bit of varnish on the thread and try to keep your whip finish tool clean. And if you just wind that onto the whip finish you've done, and then you're whipping on dry varnish if you like. Okay. And then we're just going to nip this out the way. Now you notice I haven't put any hackle or anything in here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fuzz up, roughen up the polyarn. I've put the dubbin on here just to act as a bit of a body, to be honest with you guys, just to give it a little bit of bulk in the centre, but also covers up my thread turns. It's just a preference, so you don't have to do that, but I prefer it because the sparkle as well gives the fly a little bit natural sheen. Okay, and that's it. Yeah, I'm going to turn it. Hopefully it doesn't adjust the focus. You see it from underneath because I've lifted the polyarn up at the front and brushed it off. It almost goes paradigm like, or if you press it enough there, you'll get it. It'll sit in the water almost parachute hackle like. Yeah. And you can just see that's like a nondescript a terrestrial fly, black gnat, bigger size, it could be a hawthorn fly, anything like that. But it's amazing just how these fish will lock onto a pattern like that is essentially nothing in particular. Okay, how's that look then? All right?
Yeah.
Happy with that? Right then, any questions?
Could you not put a pair of horns on that?
Sorry?
Could you not put a small set of horns in there? Tiny ones.
You can. I'll be honest with you, actually, sometimes I've tied it. So instead of dubbing the body in the centre here, I've actually tied a small hackle in and then trimmed that off underneath. But yeah, you can change you can do all these things here. As a beetle pattern, I would pull that polyarn that's at the back, pull that forward if you wanted to do that, yeah. And then,
I'm just thinking outside the box, if it was a calmed middle of night, on the river, where you want to be away.
Yeah.
Where you want to wake up where you know there's trout there, but you want to wake them up. I'm just thinking outside the box because I always have.
Good. Well, I've never actually thought of that. Usually, even at times like that, then it's I'm on flat water hoping I can find a spinner fall. But yeah, if there's nights when there's nothing moving, to be honest with you, I just go home. Yeah, and pour myself one of these and just think about the fishes that go home. Yeah,
and big ones you go home and
in. So there we go, guys. So that's it. NIP. Nothing in particular. And you can vary the lengths of what you've got if you want a smaller fly or if you want something a bit bulkier. As I said, you can put in a hackle at the centre if you want, or even one at the front here. I always, when I'm doing that, always trim on so it's flat on the underside because I always wanted to lie that right in the meniscus. So I wanted to lie that half in, half out type style, yeah. Okay, I like the elongated curve that you get in the K14. The partridge's barbless equivalent, I think, is It's not a grab pupa. It's not the buzzer hook either. It'll come back to me. I'm on the ambassador for him. I should really care what that is, but I can't remember offhand. But I've not got a problem using barbed hooks, guys, and I'm happy to talk about that if anybody wants to ask me about it. But essentially, that's it. Yeah. Okay. So, I hate when it's quiet like this, guys, because I start waffling on a load of shite. I'm just really looking for you guys to jump in and ask me things. Yeah. So feel free. Don't be shy. All right, guys. Right, Derek.
Yeah, cracking.
That's two summer patterns. We'll call that summer patterns, yeah. For you guys, both for rivers, both emerging or half in, damp, dries, if you want to call it that. Yeah. Okay. What else would you like to do?
Do you debarb the hooks then?
You can debarb them, yeah. Yeah.
No, yourself. Do you debarb them or not?
As a rule of thumb, no, unless it specifically says it's to be a barbless fly. The reason being, look, guys, this is a size 16 hook, okay? Let me see if I get that there. If you can see the barb that you can see there, it's a whisker of a bit of metal.
Yeah.
And we're starting to get in, if you're talking about barbless versus debarbless, this is just my opinion, and I'm just going to say it, okay?
Get it off your chest, Alan, go on.
No. I'm just putting out there food for thought, and I accept everybody's different points of view. When you're coming into that, like I said, that there's for hooks that have, we'll call them whisker barbs, okay?
Yeah.
Right? It comes down to how you handle the fish. It comes down to your fish husbandry skills and techniques more than the fact that you've got a tiny wee bit of wire sticking at the back of the hook or not. Yeah. If you've got an upturn point, which is the types of barbless hooks that I like to use, in a sense, you've kind of got a barb anyway. Yeah. But the fact is that if you're keeping the fish in the water, you're not squeezing about the vital organs, and you're quick with your photographs, etc., and you use your forceps to make sure that you're taking that hook out without ripping the cheeks of the fly, or the fish, I should say, then really it comes down to, if you're fishing catch and release, guys, barbed or barbless, as long as you're making sure you take that hook out in a safe manner for the trout, quickly, you're playing it quickly, and you're keeping that fish. You don't play it to its total exhaustion, and everything will be fine. Yeah. If you want to be totally honest, I have done a lot of scale reading stuff and scale sampling with some of the scientific guys that work in the Devon River that I live next to up in Scotland, and we've also put in electronic taggers inside some of these fish. I'll be honest with you guys, if you see what we put these fish through at that time of year, for when we're doing these things, to be honest with you, a wee tiny bit of barbed wire, whisker barb sticking at the back of a hook's not really going to make the big difference. What I will say is we're getting into a moral dilemma here, yeah, and it starts to become about, it's okay for me to do this because I'm fishing with barbless flies. I think that's a lose-lose situation if you start going down that road, guys, because ultimately we're still participating in a blood sport. Yes, I put almost all my fish back, but not all of them, because I do eat fish. If you're 100% catch and release, then there's an argument there that could be said that that could be classed as being more barbaric. You're not being selective in your harvesting, and it opens a whole different debate. Okay.
Yeah.
Happy.
Yeah, fine, Alan. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. All right then. So,
but like you say, it's how you handle your fish, mate. And at the end of the day,
exactly. Yeah. You guys, fishing's a motive, personal subject, and everybody has their own angle and opinion for it, and that's fine. That's totally acceptable. I agree with all of that there. I'm not saying what I'm saying is right or wrong. It's how I feel and my observations over years of doing this. You'll see them fish out the water, and the single hand grip photograph is the one that actually pisses me off the most. Holding it up in the air and they're gripping it single hand. And then the next breath they're saying, you caught it in a size 16 hens barbless hook. Yeah, well, it doesn't matter if you caught it in a size 8 flipping saltwater hook with flipping bait holders on it. In fact, you've just crushed its inner organs. You've killed that fish anyway. So it's more about learning the correct ways of what you do with a fish if you're going to be putting it back.
Yeah.
Right, I'll get off my soapbox. What do you want to say now then? Well, what I'll say then is I am on Sunday heading up north to Sutherland in Scotland. Any of you guys been up there fishing before?
Some of the lads have been up, yeah.
So what I'm going to be doing up there, a total contrast to what I've just shown you already, I'm going to be targeting wild loch brown trout. Yeah, one of my favourite ways of fishing. So I'm fishing hill lochs, big and small, looking for, well, predominantly you're after rolling waves and fishing short line style and dragging fish up and working an attractor. So if it's okay with you guys and you're happy with that, I can show you some of the flies that I use for that.
Yes, please.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Right, well, the first thing I'm going to do very, very quickly is switch over and I'm going to use a sprout hook, size 12, and I'm going to do you a hedgehog. Okay? Notice I didn't call it a sedge hog because in certain places in Scotland, if you call them sedge hogs, you'll get excommunicated. Now, if Melvin Wood was on, he loves to wind me up about that. Yeah.
Does he?
Yeah, because they're called a sedge hog. A sedge hog, without sounding pedantic about the whole thing, hedgehogs were developed in Orkney. Hedgehogs were developed, they originally came from Norway. And in about 1992, after a world championship, someone wrote an article in Trout Fisherman, I believe, maybe 1990, 92, something about that time scan, wrote an article about this particular fly. And a guy called Sandy Nicholson, who lived in Orkney, read the article and thought, this could be a fly that it could do well up here. Now, if anybody's ever fished up that way, you'll know that muddlers and very heavily palmered flies were the go-to patterns for wild trout fishing. And the reason for that, guys, is because predominantly what a lot of the guys were doing, they would fish 4 of these flies about 1.5 feet apart, 2 feet maximum apart, yeah, heavily ginked up on an intermediate line. And when you pull the muddlers like that there, they go under the surface and then they pop back up, yeah? So the hedgehog was designed as a fly that would be even more buoyant and would work better for this. And I have to say that that's exactly what it did, yeah? So these are big, brash patterns, predominantly designed for that style of fishing, what you would call popping the hog, okay? And for pulling, go under the surface, you put a slight pause in it, and then they pop back through again. How they become called sedge hogs was that they were taken. There was another article came out by somebody else. I know who it was, but I'll be non-controversial and keep the name to myself. But his initials are Stan Headley. Okay, and what Stan did was he took that, refined the fly, scaled it down a bit, and he put a hackle in the front, and it was designed to be a fly to imitate a sedge. Well, either of the two tines would have imitated a sedge. So if you're going to be really pedantic and split hairs, if you've got one that doesn't have a hackle at the front, it's a hedgehog, and if it has got a hackle at the front, it's a sedge hog. It's as simple as that. The addition of pre-knotted pheasant tail legs in the fly, that's purely optional, guys. The originals had it, Stan's sedge hogs didn't. Okay. Ultimately, how it fishes, though, nah. I've not had a fish come to me and saying I'm not taking that because it's not got any legs on it. So what I'm going to do is tie up, and it can be quite a complicated fly to tie, to be honest with you. But to be truthful, it doesn't have to be. And you can do things, take shortcuts. I'm a lazy fly tier, so I'm going to try and take shortcuts every time I can. So rather than tying in and then dubbing the body, and if I can cut steps out of fly, etc., I'm going to do that. So what I'm showing you here, guys, is old gold microglint, bright gold microglint, okay? And the embroidery thread, there's a few outlets for microglint. For me in particular, it's centerfly, but I know Vineyard do it as well. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little drop of a number 11 glow bright floss, and I'm going to tie a fly that I call the Wickham's Hog. Yeah, it's a fly that does very well for me. So what we're going to do is we'll catch in the gold microglint, and the reason I'm using the microglint there like that is because it means that that's finishing the fly, the body of the fly, just using thread. Yeah, and then I don't know, you guys that fished up north and that there, have you heard that fly called a Maderia Hog?
Heard of it, but it doesn't ring a bell.
Yeah, you'll see it. Ken Kennedy, if you look his stuff up on Facebook, you'll see Maderia Hog. There's a guy called Norman Irvin. Norman's a good pal of mine. And actually, what I'll do is I'll tie a Madeira Hog after this and we can talk about it then. Okay, how's that sound?
Yeah.
Right. So what I've done here, poodle mo and tying. I've caught the thread in. I've caught in what's going to be a tag, and I'll run the thread around to just short of the bend of the hook, maybe just another couple of turns. Certainly no more than where the barb would be if you're using a barbed fly. How's that for non-controversial description? So tap out the barb, guys, yeah? Then what we're going to do is just take the thread, I turn out the way, and then I'm just going to wind the floss on without catching the hook point. If I can, I'm going to wind it on just slightly around the bend of the hook and back up just to form a tag. Okay. Now you could put the floss into a bobbin holder and do that first. And I don't mind doing it this way. It's whatever suits you. Yeah. I'm going to clean that off, and that's me set my tag in, as you can see there. And then I've got just behind the point of the hook is where I'm going to start tying this fly. Okay. So what we need for this, roe deer hair. Okay. So this is roe hair from the back. There's deer hair from the back of the roe. Yeah. So belly hair's no good. You can also use comparadon hair or short fine deer hair. You'll see it sold like that. That's generally whitetail buck from America, but our own roe deer is the best material for hedgehogs. Okay. This particular one is a medium colour. I tie them natural medium. I tie them with light hair, and also, as is prized when you go north over Orkney, etc. You have the black or near black, natural black hair from the spine of the winter coat. Yeah, I'll come back to that because that's actually a vital ingredient on the Madeira Hog. So what we're going to do is just take a bunch of deer hair. For my first bunch, I'm going to tie these sequentially from the back to the front. But for the first one, I'm not going to go with a massive, great big bunch of hair because this is effectively going to act almost as a bit of a tail wheel. Yeah, here on my sitting. I need a hair stacker. I don't know if anybody noticed earlier, a big clatter, but I knocked my hair stacker onto the floor. So what I'm going to do, pop the hair into the stacker, pop it into the stacker, few taps. Now, if you've got a hair stacker and you're tying in, so if you're tying in wings and you're for a dry fly, for example, you're wanting it comparadun style, wee tip, whichever way you stack it, whichever way you want the wing to lie is the direction that you face the stacker in. Okay? So for this case, obviously the hair's going to be lying back the way, so I'm going to take the hair out of the stacker like this. And now, yes, that's obvious and sounds straightforward, but you'd be amazed the amount of guys that will take that out and then try and turn it around in their hand. And you'd kind of defeat the purpose of the point that you've just lined all the tips up. Any stubborn fibres, pull them out. And then I'm going to just set this so that I know that it's just past the bend of the hook for the tips, yeah? Put that right onto the last turn of thread for the body. And then I'm just going to put in, don't let it go, keep it. I don't know if you can see my fingers there, but I'm really gripping that hair tight because I don't want it to spin, yeah? And just 4 or 5 locking turns. And then what you do is slide your fingers off the back like that. And any broken fibres will come out with that. So you're left with a nice clean bunch of hair, yeah? Any broken ones, see there's one there, look. I'm just going to pick that out the way. Now what you do is take all your tag ends, pull them straight up, come in with your scissors, flatten the body of the hook, being careful not to cut the thread. Wouldn't be the first time I've done that. And a single cut, take that out the way, support it again, and then just put in a few locking turns just to trap down the ends of the deer hair. Now, some guys are really, really pedantic and they'll want to catch all the trim out all these little tag ends, etc. Yeah, guys, this is a fly that's going to take loads of punishment. It's just a general impressionistic pattern. It's gone into the big wild waters and white water and all the rest that you're looking to throw it in. So see that there? That makes not the slightest bit of difference to me. So I'm just going to leave that in. I was once told, I've been more than once told, but years ago I was told that the best flies you get are the ones that a fish they've chewed it a bit, yeah? Or you've found it lying in the... Yeah, they've been used before. They're really rough and scruffy and that, and they're battered about and they've been chewed and they're second or third out and all that, yeah? Well, in case you hadn't noticed, guys, my flies are as rough as that when they come off the vise, so I've really got a bit of an advantage, haven't I? Other more delicate fly tiles are available. So, into the second bunch, as I said, we're going to do sequential bunches of the deer hair coming forward. This time I'm going to take a bigger section, okay? Now you'll get to learn as you come through how heavy and how light bunches of deer hair that you know are going to get to work. And that comes down to just experience as you're tying them. Not only as you're tying the fly, but also how you want that fly to fish. So sometimes I'll tie these very sparse, and other times I tie them really heavy. If I'm tying them very sparse, generally these will be ones that I'll be looking to fish very, very slow or static dry. Yeah, it's actually, despite the fact it's designed as a buoyant, brash action fly that you pull through the surface of the water, a hedgehog is an exceptionally good dry fly. Yeah, on both lochs, wild lochs and still waters. Is anybody tying the living room? When you married, they tie in the living room. It's a great thing to annoy the wife, that, guys.
Tying what, Alan?
Eh?
Tying what?
If you tie in the living room, you tie in the lounge, and your wife's trying to watch Coronation Street or something, you're sitting tapping that thing. Oh, it's great. It annoys them no end.
Especially when you start tapping it.
You're only compromising to sit down with them, but you're still there. Except I don't guys. No anymore.
So I've set this up, and I'm just going to put this in slightly shorter than the bunch you've got before. Okay? So now I know where that is. I'm going to lock that. I've got that in place. I'm locking that in, and I can really feel the hook shank in my fingers. I'm really gripping that tight. Yeah? And I'm just going to throw over a loose loop and then just draw it, keeping the bunchy deer hair grip very tight in my fingers because, as I said, I don't want it to flare. I don't want it to be dragged round. Yeah. In fact, as a wee tip, what you can do when you're tying this, if you angle the deer hair bunch slightly towards you, so you're pulling it back towards you like that, then thread drag's going to hold that in the right place. I've dropped in 4 or 5 turns. Same again with my fingers, slide that out. You get your clean bunch of deer hair. Gather all your tag ends up. Yeah. And we'll just nip them away. And you can be as precise with this as you want. As I've said already, I tend not to bother very much. But what you noticed there was the thread. Because I'm using microglint, it's a softer thread. You've got to learn your thread strength and your thread control. I can't really give that a right good pull down, or I'm just going to break the thread. Yeah. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to make sure I pull this back towards myself again, make sure that's on the top, really tight grip, and lock down those tag ends. Yeah. Okay, and then I'll come and just down to where that starts to angle forward. The thread, the deer hair butts, if you like, that are sticking down there, just forget about that just now. We'll tidy that up after. Yeah. So, at the risk of repeating myself, I'm just going to do the same again. Take another bunch.
What size hook are you tying on?
That's a size 12. Yeah. So I tie these flies and fish them in size 10s to size 14. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tap it. Pop the bunch out. Set it just short again, almost like a 45 angle. Yeah. Grip it. Angle slightly towards myself. Grip it very tight. And the same again, just lock and turns. I'm putting a little bit of pressure and you can see the head just starting to flare up slightly. And again, I can't give you
I'm not doing it.
I can't give you an exact way of gauging the strength of your or how
I'm watching a video.
Oh, can you turn it down?
Can you go and get my earphones from next door then? Next to my bed in the white case.
Okay.
gather the tag ends up together. That sounds like a fly tire of the feature there. And then we'll just come in and we're just going to nip those ends away. Okay. You can see with the very nature of how you're tying this fly, you're predominantly quite a squat, heavy-bodied for sure fly. I'm just going to clean these off a little bit more. Yeah. Okay. Couple of looking turns in here just to make sure I've got it. And I bring the thread back up to the base of the wing there. Because the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to catch in some pre-knotted pheasant tail legs. As I said earlier, this is optional. I think it's about time I invested in another knotted pheasant tail stem. Do you think? What do you think, guys? I've got enough.
I think you've used that one.
Yeah, I've got enough here for one more fly. Right, so what you'll get is, again, loads of guys will say, right, count out 6 legs and put 3 on each side and all the rest of it. Take a bunch. This is the best way I've found. Take a bunch of these things here. There might be 6, might be 8, might be 7. Who cares? Open them up like that. Okay, slightly. So you kind of split them in the middle. Lay it over the top of the hook and then grip it and then lock it in place. And they'll flare up all over the place. You want it to look wild and rough. If you prefer and you wanted them to lie more regimented, then what we'll do is we'll open that gap up even more, and then you can lay them in along the sides like so. Yeah, and lock that in place. All right. Now, guys, I'll be honest with you. Doing it that way, or even picking the feathers out and getting them so that the angles so they're lying tight into the body of the fly and everything, that's all pure personal choice. It is regards how that fly fishes, it makes not the slightest bit of difference, okay? So, clean off the ends. You can see, the thing with microglint is you can see there, this is equivalent to 6/0 thread, and it builds up really quick, so you've got to be aware of that so you don't end up with no room to finish the fly off. But you'll certainly end up with a big head and fly. So my last bunch of deer here, if you like, I'm just going to take in, if you notice there, that's probably about the same. So it's almost a third of the bunch that I'd normally use. And it's about the same as I had for the tail. And it's just because if I tied in a huge big bunch at the front, then I've got no way to finish it off. Yeah. Again, stack it. Well, saying that, when I first used to start tying these things, I never bothered stacking them at all. So what I said about a rough and ready fly, if you really want it rough and ready, then don't bother with a stacker, because you'll get a fly that looks pretty wild on you. Just short of the bunch before it again, and then we shall just lock that in place. Okay. See it flares up. And I'm just going to come in here, nip away the tag ends, catch that because it's not sitting properly. No, I've not left myself enough room, guys. So hang on, if you've got it like that, I'm not happy with that. Just take it back. I'll take that back. Okay. There. Okay. Take that thread back to where it should be. And I'll just do that again, okay? Yeah, that's good then. All right, so just short of the bunch I had before. 2 or 3 locking turns. Make sure I've got that locked in place. That's not wanting to sit there at all. I have done this before, you know. You wouldn't think it.
You're doing fine.
It's you, Derek. You're making me nervous. So, what you nip that out of the way, tear that one's out of the way, and then just secure the ends of this thread. See, it's really flipping, wanting to just keep coming off the front. That's it. There's 1 or 2 struggling fibres there. Just pull them back. You see what I mean about the size of the head? For this particular fly, don't worry about that, and I'll show you why in a second. I'll also show you a good technique to get out of if you've made a nasty finish in the fly and the head's way too big, right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to lock that in place with a quick finish. If I can find the thing. There we go. All right. Yeah. Now, what I'm going to do is just take my varnish, just drop that, touch it. It's brush coat I use rather than selling it. Yeah, it's that bit thinner. Okay. And then on top of the bit finish I've just varnished. So rather than putting on the thread this time, guys, there's plenty of room to come in there with the brush. You don't have to worry about that. Now, a wee tip for you, yeah. So if you finish your fly and the head's way too big and it looks awful, then you can dub a head onto it and hide it. But this particular fly, this particular pattern calls for this anyway. Yeah. So I've taken some gold ice stub in here and I've just dropped it onto the thread, yeah. And I'm just going to wind it on. Now, if anybody again's been up north, when you finish the flies off with gold heads on them like that to the dubbing, it's actually called a Madeira head. Oh, sorry, a Midas finish, yeah.
Midas, yeah.
Yeah. And there you go, guys. Yeah. That wee technique, the wee trick I said about your thumbnail and your fingernail, just gripping behind the collar of the hook. And as you tighten the thread up, squeeze that in so that it's tightening in on itself, okay? All right. You can see you can get a bit of strength. See how I've got a bit of pull on that micro glint. I didn't want to break it through. You've got a good bit of stretch on it, but you'll get to learn how much you can and can't give it. So rather than breaking it off, because I don't want to pop back up inside, I'm just going to cut that out of the way. And then I'm just going to turn the fly around just to see if there's any fibres I want to tidy up. If I go straight to the underside first, anything that's been drawn round when I've been tying it, I'm going to nip it out the way just to clear the underside of this fly off so that it sits like a sedge, rides low in the water. Okay. And then your last, almost your last job, second for one last job, I'm just going to lift a wee bit of the dubbing out just to give it, soften it up. There we go. Okay. So that's it with the Midas head on it. That's how I finish that fly off. Anyway, but if you have got, as I said already, flies and you feel that the heads are too big, you can double a wee bit of head onto the fly. It's a good technique to help hide some rough work. All right.
That's going to float very long, isn't it?
Alan,
very long. So your very last job now.
Alan, what do you suggest for the hillocks where you're going? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
What do you suggest for the hillocks up where you're going? I'm talking about Arcolini or those of the Brandock estate, which aren't particularly deep.
Yeah.
What sort of flies do you reckon up there as you'll be there in weeks' time?
Right, well, what I would suggest that you push up there is just exactly what I'm trying now.
Yeah.
African hedgehogs throughout the north of Scotland and the Isles, you'll vary them in size, you vary them on how heavily dressed they are, and obviously you're going to vary them in colour, and switch about how you fish. I love to fish them static. If I'm going to do that, then what I tend to do is put them two flies on, just the full width of my arms apart, probably by a size 14. And you'd be amazed at how confident a lot of trout will take these things. It's more a case of looking for cruising trout or rising fish and just drop them upwind, the same as you would drop them upstream in a river. You drop them upwind in the loch and just let that drift back past it. So yes, I've got a box of traditionals, McLean's, Clan Chiefs.
Size 10 too big, really?
No. Depending purely on the wind. Windy days, bigger flies. Not so windy days, smaller flies. That's a rule of thumb. That's really very general.
What area are you going to?
This particular time I'm going up to near Laird in Sutherland. But there's not a bit of the Highlands of Scotland that I haven't been in, or the Isles for that matter. And this fly travel.
Are you going up towards Antrahara?
Shortly, Altnahara. I'm not quite as far up.
I then turn right and go towards Brandock.
Badenoch.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah. So if you're ever in that area, any of these places, Badenloch, Altnafearnach, Anruther, all these lochs like that, this style of fly is absolutely perfect for any wild brown trout loch. Just want to finish off there before I say anything else, guys. If you notice, I took my brush coat. It's very fine. Now, as I said, your microglint is a very soft material. It's a soft, easily damaged thread, yeah? And I'm not going to touch it again, but what I did was, I don't know if you noticed, but I took the brush coat and I just dabbed it onto the underside of the fly from the tag right up to just behind the dubbing. Just a nice, very, very light touch into the varnish. Because it's brush coat, it's a softer varnish, or a thinner varnish, than you would get with Celia. And what that does is that'll draw into the thread, and it helps give it a little bit of protection when you're fishing it, because this fly's going to take a lot of punishment. Yeah. gink the fly up. I always gink my flies up anyway, to be honest with you. And by doing that, what not to do, I find, don't put the petroleum gel gink, your gel floatant, onto your fingers. You know, the way you were taught to put it on your fingers first and rub it like that, and then rub it out. Don't do that. Take the nozzle of the fly and put it right in, and squirt the stuff right into your hair, and then rub it right in. So you're over applying the floatant, if you like, yeah. And then go for there, and that thing will float all day. Yeah, initially you'll see a little bit of oil slick off the back of the fly, etc. But guys, I actually think that's an attraction, to be fair. But what you want to do is make sure that you've got this thing soaked in that stuff, if you like. Yeah, I go through bottles of that gink, by the way. Just one bottle of gink doesn't last me very long. And the last thing I'll say about this particular fly, or this particular style, hedgehogs, yeah, I've been talking about them purely in a wild scenario. Great for trout, equally as good for salmon, sea trout, and our wild lochs, South Uist, all over Scotland, wherever. It's also an extremely effective fly in still waters, and particularly still waters where the fish are stocked regularly rather than intermittently. Yeah, so if you've got put and take still water type fishing, your hedgehog is a very effective fly that not a lot of people will use. Yeah, and that popped up styles is exactly the thing to do there. Yeah, and the reason for that, guys, if I turn it upside down and you look at that, and you look at not so much the colours, but the shape of that fly and the profile, you're always in the summertime, you're going to get a lot of sedges and that. So I mean, the fly's meeting that pre-image anyway. It looks like a pellet, yeah. And any of these places there where you've got regular stockfish in there that have been hand reared, this can be devastatingly effective. Okay. So I've just spoiled my images of wild trout fish coming to a statement like that. Like. All right, there you go, guys. So that was my Wickham's hog. Okay, you all right with that? Any other questions? I need you to ask my questions so I can get a drink.
They're all on mute, Alan.
Well, you can ask the questions, Derek.
Yeah. Funny enough, I used that at Thinbeguilen the other day. Cracking.
I've got a question for you. Which scotch are you drinking?
Say again, Peter?
Which whiskey are you drinking?
So this is Tomatin.
Oh yes, I know that one.
And it's from an Oloroso sherry cask, hence the colour. That's why it's so dark. Yeah, it's a good friend of mine runs a little wee Airstream caravan. He's converted into a coffee shop, and that's the name of it. It's called Coffee at the King's, and he gifted me the glass. So I'll turn that away so you can see. You can see that it's an extremely oily whiskey. It's actually only 9-year-old. That's believe it or not.
No, very nice. Sorry to disturb you. Enjoy.
So companies that specialise. I mean, you've got all these distilleries up in Scotland. There's thousands of them, but you also have companies that specialise in going in and buying either individual casks or short runs of casks. Yeah, you have to be very careful because I've noticed very recently. Yeah, if you're going to invest in whiskey, guys, do your homework and be very careful because there's a lot of scammy companies out there. This particular whiskey is from a bottling company called Skene, Skene, yeah, as in like Loch Skene near Aberdeen, or Loch Skene in the Borders. If anybody's ever been near Moffat, there's a Loch Skene there, but it's missing the E at the end of it. And that bottling company, they go in and they'll buy short runs. So that particular one, this Tomatin here, they bought the last 9 casks of it that were there, and then took it away, bottled it under their own label, said what it was, and then they'll sell that whiskey off it until really when it's finished, it's finished. Yeah, it's not like something that they'll keep repeating all the time. It's just a one-off. However many few hundred bottles of that they've got. So I should get commission, actually. I'm trying to give you the guys a hard sell, Yeah. So anything else about the whiskies, flies, wild trout, before I move on to the next fly? Okay, right. So I'm popping the size 12 sprout hook, G3A partridge sprout. Back into the vise again.
Alan, sorry, it's Mario here. I don't know. I was trying to take myself off of mute there, but I was struggling. You mentioned fishing the sedge hogs static. I don't know if you've had much experience and if you've spoken about this because I was a little bit late to the Zoom meeting, but fishing them on a fast class, 3 in a team, casting them out and drawing them under the surface and letting them pop back up. I've had some real success on Orkney and South Uist and even on the likes of the Lake of Menteith fishing that method, which can be really successful.
Yeah, sorry, Mario. Yeah, I did. I described that as called popping the hog. I gave a wee brief history of the hedgehog and where it came about and why it was its early conception. It was designed exactly for that. Yeah. In fact, if you go to Orkney and Shetland, for example, these guys will fish like that 90% of the time. What I'm saying is that if you treat it more as a dry fly than that pulled and pop style, where, as you say, a fast glass, but midge tip, intermediate line, anything like that. If you're fishing at a pure floater, and I would then come from 4 of the flies in the cast down to 2 and space them out the flow with them arms and fish them a short line, so you're doubling it through the surface, or figure 8, or even better when there's fish rising, just static. When I say static, I mean they're going to travel in the wind, so you're pushing them on, then that can be devastatingly effective.
They're brilliant flies.
It's a way that when I'm up in Orkney, I'm not going to drop now. I know good pals and good Orcadians up there, and that's what this style. And they shy away from fishing the style and the way I'm doing it because there's a force of habit. You get into that rhythm of pulling your flies all the time, stripping your flies, and I'm doing it that other style. And really, I think it's because a lot of the times you're waiting for something to happen, whereas these guys are fidgeting about. They're looking for making something happen.
No, it's a great pattern. I've had them work very successfully on the rivers as well.
It's actually, well, as I said earlier, it comes from Norway, and it was designed for that. It was designed as a skating sedge pattern that didn't sink for big, large Norwegian rivers that you would throw an angle 45 and then skate it around because the fish were looking onto the natural great big moths or great big sedge and looking onto that skating V profile in the water. And it was
exciting.
Yeah.
Good. Sorry, I've made you repeat yourself. Apologies because I was late.
Not at all. No.
Thank you.
Okay, so if you bear with me, I'm going to do something that I know that fly tying material companies particularly don't like. I'm not going to promote a embroidery thread or something like that. I'm just giving you this. The name of this is in context, so you know how this fly came about. So this particular fly I'm going to do is called a Maderia Hog. Okay, so Madeira is this stuff. Yeah, that's metallic Madeira, but Madeira is essentially an embroidery thread that you get in sewing shops. Yeah, it comes in various size spools. That's a standard one, so it's quite a big bulky spool. Can be awkward to fit into a bobbin holder. And the particular Madeira thread that the fly was named after was a bright orange thread, which, for all intents and purposes, is a shade somewhere. If you're looking to get the correct shade in the fly tying terms, it's a shade somewhere between Glow Bright 4 and 5. about that. Okay, an orangey red fly, centre fly. They come close to it with fluoro bright. You can see here, which is a strong, quite a heavy thread to tie with, bonded thread. Okay, so that's why it was called that. Madeira thread. Good pal of mine's, Norman Irvin. He was in the sewing shop, spotted this stuff, took it home, tied a fly up, a hedgehog's up with it. Worked very well, and he named it the Madeira Hog. Right, so what I'm going to do with your thread, just catch this in. It's this reddy orange style of thread. Hang on a second, guys. I've got it caught around the bobbin holder. There we go. It's a reddy orange style thread, Madeira Hog. I've got the thread in. You don't need any tags or tails this time, because the thing I failed to mention is that the particular type of thread that the guys were using, or Norman used to begin with, is fluorescent. Okay, you see that? So in this case, I'm using fluoro bright fluorescent red thread, which is a very, very good substitute. Right. As I said already, Orkney guys have a passion for natural winter coat from the spine of a roe deer, natural black. Okay, as dark as you can get. All right. This particular pattern it commands that. That's the colour of deer hair that you want. Roe hair off the spine of the beast, winter coat. Take a wee bunch here. Now, just going to tie it. The tying sequences are quite repetitive. It's just the same as what I've shown you already with the Wickham's hog, in which case is just taking bunches of deer hair and tying them along the top of the hook. Yeah. So stack it up, straighten up the tips, and then come in just off the back of the fly. Now, the last time I started off with just a wee bunch of, probably about a third of the size of the bunch you'd normally use. Yeah, but just to show you that if you're wanting a real bushy, buoyant fly, you can beef that up. Yeah. Right. Grip the hook, grip the thread. Grip the deer hair and the hook very tightly. Lift that over the top. Couple of loose turns. Draw it tight, and then put your locking turns in, and just put a wee draw of thread every time you go around until your deer hair stops flaring up. You see it flaring up there like that? That's how you know you've got it trapped down properly. And then, as I said before, draw your finger and your thumb away from there, and any broken fibres will come away and leave you a nice clean bunch. Yeah. Gather all the deer hair straight up. Clean it out of the way. Support it again, and then just secure it. Come down, forward, and back up. And then come forward again, right onto the point where it starts to taper down. Same again. Good bunch. As I said, you'll get to learn how heavy and how light a bunch of deer hair to lift it through trial and error. Yeah, I could say to you it's about, you take about an 8mm circle deer hair and stuff like that. I mean, that's getting too technical. To be honest with you, it doesn't actually work like that. Some of your deer hair you'll get will be thicker than others, and ultimately, guys, it's just doing to experience and learning just how that's going to handle as you're doing it. Okay. Same again. Coming just short, 45 angle, put it really tight, lift over, twist, tighten, yeah. Slip your fingers out the way, and then any broken fibres will come away. Gather it all together, pull them up straight up there like that, and then come in with your scissors Being careful, as I said before, not to cut the thread, which is an occupational hazard that does happen. What I will say is, if you do catch the thread, or if you break the thread when you're doing this fly, don't panic. Just tons of thread should have been enough to keep it really tight. If you didn't panic, just take your time, catch the thread, your broken section, catch the thread back in again, and catch up. And 9 times out of 10, you'll not have to start again. That bunch will not fall off. Yeah. So secure it. Come down to just where it starts to taper off, and do the same again. Yeah. Now, I've just cleaned out my bobbin holder, sorry, my hair stack. Every now and again, you're going to get broken sections of deer hair in. And it's a good idea to give it a wee blow out as you're doing this. And it helps keep the bunches of your deer hair clean. Also helps them stack down properly. You're not going to get jammed up because you've got some deer hair already in there. Face it the direction you want the wing to go. Pull that out. Tighten the bunch up in your fingers and then set it off. 45. Lock it in place. Really grip it tight. Twist. Draw away. Lift. Come in here. Nip away. There we are. Yeah. Probably will get away with trimming that down a bit more here. Yep. Lock that down. And then take the thread back up to the base of the wing. By pure luck, I've managed to find just a wee drop more pre-knotted legs without having to go raking about looking for new stuff. Take a bunch, split with your thumbnail, one side, other side, hold it tight, couple of turns to lock it, and then you've got it so it's run along the side of the fly. As I said already, guys, your knotted legs are optional, and tying them in like that's optional as well. You can have them just scattered everywhere. This is just a real scruffy fly, so I mean that type of tying when you've got the legs kicking up all over the place, it makes no difference. Yeah. That's a personal choice. Now I've cut that the legs of the the pheasant tail out the way. Now I've actually made a glaring error here. Can anybody see what it was? No? I've been tying without my magnifiers on, so I've been tying with braille on this fly, guys. I should get extra kudos for that. So there we go. You can see the segments of the hair coming forward. Yeah. As I said already, if you're using thick thread like this, you're obviously going to end up with, particularly using deer hair, you're going to end up with a heavy body on the fly, a heavy head. So I'm going to just lock this in place. Yeah. In fact, they're probably better actually. I think I've made a better job of this one without my magnifiers than I did with the Wickham hog. I think I'll just leave them off for now. Yeah.
The whiskey helps.
Brush coat. Yeah, aye. I've not had enough of that yet. Brush coat in there, and then I'm just going to put in just a couple of locking turns there. Belt and braces, yeah. Now, as you can see, I've leave that thread on there just now. You've got a really big head in the fly. Anybody that's used hedgehogs before and you buy them commercially or whatever, then you'll find that that's a common thing. And it makes no difference as to how the fly fishes. For a personal point of view, I like to have this pattern where you didn't see all the thread turns at the front. As I said already, it's a good cheating technique. If you've ended up with a lot of thread turns in there. You can hide them a little bit, particularly at the head of the fly. There's a technique or a style of fly back in the day. It was called a soft muddler, which was basically just a heavy dubbed head onto the fly and brushed out. Yeah, because so you got that ball effect. Yeah, which is just what I'm going to do just now. What I meant to show you there is this. So this is Orkney Peach. That's that fly. That's a Madeira Hog. Turn that off there, and you just fish it, and that's it. And the bright orange. This is an extra step, if you like. So I've just taken a little drop of Orkney Peach, and I'm going to dub this onto the thread, like so. And I'm just going to wind it on there, just to cover up the thread turns, mask them a little bit. And you can make that as heavy or as light a dubbing if you want. Yeah, if you really want to go to town with it, drop a bit more on. Yeah, drop a wee bit finish there. Single lock and turn. Finger and thumbnail behind the collar of the eye, the hook. Draw it tight. That's it. Cut the thread. So this particular stuff I was telling you about, Flora-Bright. What's that? 240 denier. That's a heavy thread, guys. Yeah. So again, you've just got to be aware of that as you're tying the flies, because you're going to end up with a lot of thread turns at the front's going to give you a big bulky head. If you've put a big dubbing head onto the fly, then you can give an extra buggy effect by just gently lifting that out of there. Yeah. And blend it into the wing. Just pull it back into the wing like that. And you get this halo effect at the head of the fly, yeah. The whole fly, including the Orkney Peach dubbing, is fluorescent. So whack, you're going to get a fly that's right in your face, yeah. And that's it. So that essentially, guys, that, with the exception of the additional Orkney Peach head, that is a Madeira Hog. Interestingly, these guys up there, if there's olives in the water, that would be the first fly that they reach for. And don't ask me why bright orange fly is so effective in a hatch of olives, but it seems to be very effective in Orkney, that's for sure. Probably because they're all using it. And there you go. So that's your Madeira Hog. Okay? Not a finesse fly at all, but a highly effective one. How's that then, guys?
Perfect.
All right.
Fantastic.
Now, I've been tying that fly with what you could call it a pre-finished thread body. Yeah. So I used the gold, and I've used the Floral Bright stuff. But that's not to say that you don't or you can't just use normal thread. Yeah. So what I'm going to do here, I'll do another hog. How's the time doing anyway? I've plenty of time. I've got time to do this. Yeah. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a claret style fly, claret style hog, if you like. Another very effective colour for up north. It's going to be a bit more drab because the body's going to be rabbit fur. But like all my other flies, I like, if you're up in the wilds, extra trigger point, a bit of flash with some fluorescent material on the fly really, really enhances it, I feel. So what I've done there is I've just dropped in a tag using Glow Bright Floss number 4. As I said earlier, if you tuned in earlier, the first time I did the tag with the Glow Bright Floss onto the Wickham hog, as you can see there, I tied it in just as a section. This one I happen to have loaded into a bobbin holder. Either ways, purely personal. Either ways works equally as good. Now, this is some black. No, shit. Sorry, guys. It's a flipping claret fly I'm doing. So what I'll do with claret flies, I tend to use red. So this is your red 8O classic wax thread. And we'll catch that at the head. Come over the top of your floss. If you're tying a tag in with floss, and you've done it the way I've showed you using a bobbin holder, bring it away up the body of the fly, so you're not leaving everything tied there with a lump, or give yourself enough to lock that down in place, but give it a nice even base to the fly. Okay, so you've not got big steps in it. Know that that's going to matter when you're tying a hedgehog. So I've brought it down here, and I've left just short, leaving the tag showing, and my tag is just slightly around the bend of the hook. All right, and I'm going to come straight into my bunches of deer here. I feel so it's just very repetitive, but there's no other way doing it. So I'm just going to rattle through this one a little bit quicker than the last time. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Right, guys. So pop the deer hair in the stacker. As I said earlier on, you don't have to stack the deer hair. I like it. You can say it gives a tidier finish, and I suppose it does. But what it also does is it helps compress the bunches of deer hair, so you're tying a tighter bunch. Yeah, they're all scattered all over the place. Lock that in place. Lock and turns. And go a bit tighter with this one because it's stronger thread. Pull all these tag ends up high together like this. Come in with your scissors. No, I'll pull them straight up, yeah, and then I'll come in with my scissors straight across the hook like that. What I failed to tell you earlier, as you're doing that, you see then that leaves you a taper, which you can then tie down. And that helps lock that bunch of deer hair in place so it's not going to just come out. And I'm going to take that thread right back up to the base of the wing, and I'm going to pick myself out some claret rabbit fur. I like rabbit fur because rabbit and hare, natural material, but for dubbing, I think it's fantastic, and it jumps onto the hook. Yeah, jumps onto the thread, I should say. So as you see there, I mean, minimal effort required to dub that on. Cover up your thread turns. Start to draw that out. Just scruff it with your fingers. Next bunch of deer. Tap it. Draw it up. Set it slightly short. 45. Tilt it slightly towards yourself. And tie away. Yeah. Slide your fingers out. Cleanse the bunch off. Pull them all up high. Straight on with your scissors. Any you miss, just pull them out the way. Support the deer hair again, and then lock it down. Yep. Get your dubbing material. Dub it on. Don't be shy with the dubbing, by the way. Scruff that with your fingers. Bunch of deer hair. Now, if I was a Blue Peter presenter, I would probably say, here's one I've did earlier. But I'm not, so you'll just have to go through the whole rigmarole. Slightly short, lock it in place, tie it down, pull them all together. Draw them all up. Nip this out the way. Okay. Take some pre-knotted pheasant tail legs if there's any left. Christmas would have gone now. I'm going to have to go into the big stash, guys. Try and find them. There we go. These are dyed red. Works well red and claret. As I said already with the thread. Take a bunch. I say I didn't bother counting them out, 6. I just take a bunch. Split in the centre. A bit like that. Yeah. Okay. Lay some on one side, pull them over, lay some on the other side. Lock it down. Draw your fingers out and you're left with that nice, straggly, buggy looking pre-knotted legs. Now what I'm going to do this time, I'm going to take a tiny bunch, just a pinch of the dubbin. Yeah. I'm just going to cover that thread turns up there, yeah. Just to lock them in place. Now, what I've done here is I've left the butt ends showing and I've left them slightly long, almost a bit like Cumberland heads, really, yeah. And if you just draw that up together, pull it all out like that, and then draw it back, and then come in below that with your thread, you can finish the fly that way. And gives you a different style of finish to the hedgehog than the way I showed you before with the dubbed head on it, yeah. And then I'll just come in. That wasn't meant to happen, but I saved it. Come in, catch that underneath, draw that out there. Now, obviously, I've got a lot of soft material in there, so I'm going to go back to the style technique that I showed you first that I like to use when I've not got a lot of room. Drop varnish onto the thread, and then whip that in below the deer hair ends. Draw it away, pull that tight, don't break it. Finger on thumbnail, hide the collar, draw that back, and then come in here, and then I don't cut the thread, I actually just draw my scissors across it like that, guys. Yeah. And the reason I put such a heavy dub body on it is what I'm going to now do is just gently, just pheasant tail legs in there, just blend that dubbing up into the wing of the fly like that, yeah. And that, guys, that there is essentially the same style of flies I've showed you already, just a slightly different way of finishing it off, and with a more natural dub body, if you like, it gives you the chance to be able to brush it up, gives you a bit more bulk to the fly if you want to do that. Legs are optional. You can or you cannot. You can leave them off if you like. If I draw that up like that, then you'll see it's a more natural stage style profile. You put this in here, it's just going to give you something else. It's going to act as an attractor to trout because its legs are kicking about, etc. But in a natural world, well, it doesn't look like anything really, does it? And that's it. Okay, so there you go. That's a Claret Hog. There we go. How's that then?
They're so effective, aren't they?
Kicking them up, as I said already, to put your bottle of petroleum floatant, stick the nozzle right into the fly, pile a load of it in there, and then rub it in. Don't put it in your fingers first and rub it in, because when you do that, you're diluting the stuff in your hand. You want this thing to be soaked in gink. I mean, some guys they'll soak it in other things overnight, etc. But to be honest with you, that gink stuff, I've found it to be the most effective, and works well for me. Yeah. All a wee tip with gink I'll give you is, if it's really hot and it starts to go more a liquid than a gel, hold the bottle in the water for a wee while with the top shut, just to cool it down, and then it'll come out the liquid effect back into back into the gel, if you see what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, well, my bottles of gink, I'm going through them, as I said, quite regular. You're coming to that bit where you've got maybe about a third of the bottle left and it's getting difficult to come out. I just put them in my bag and start another one until I've got maybe 3 or 4 like that. Then pop them, put the tops on, and pop them into a sink of hot water so that it all melts down, and take the tops off and decant them all into one bottle. So you'll get a bottle of gink again, as opposed to 4 bottles that have just got not a usable amount left in it. Yeah. Spoken like a true Scotsman there, guys. Yeah.
Handy tip that, Alan.
So there we go, man. There we are. So that's me giving you a mix from one extreme to another, actually, from tiny wee blue wing olive and a nothing in particular dry fly through to much heavier and more brash wild loch flies, hedgehogs.
Thank you ever so much.
Sorry?
Thank you ever so much. Fantastic evening.
No, not at all. You're very welcome. I'm happy to do this and happy to help me out any time. If you've any questions, guys, now's your time to fire away because I've got a wee dram left to finish. So.
Alan,
yeah.
What did the Scotchman say when he fell on the ground with a bottle in his pocket?
Thanks for listening about it. I hope that works. Otherwise, I'll break my bottle. Is that right? Is that what he said?
What?
I said, I hope I haven't broke my bottle. That's what he said.
No, so what did the Scotchman say when he fell on the ground?
Mm-hmm. Up to God, that was my leg breaking.
Yeah.
I bet it'll be blood, not whiskey.
Aye. Well, if you drink enough of it, it should all be whiskey anyway, but fair enough. I didn't do this every night, guys. Don't get me wrong. If you think I'm some sort of flipping stereotypical drunken Scotsman.
Thank you very much indeed. These were excellent lessons. Great.
Not at all. You're very, very well. Thank you for tuning in. And as I said, happy to do it anytime I'm free. You guys are wanting to watch some scruffy flies getting tied, then I'm your man for that. So, yeah.
Excellent flies. Derek, will these be on your website?
Say again, sorry, Mike.
Sorry, buddy. Will I've got a slight bump. Will these videos be on your site, on your Facebook site? Sorry, YouTube
they're
site.
on our YouTube channel.
That's it. Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good.
Thanks for organising this. Brilliant.
Cheers,
top man. Thank you, Derek. That's great. Okay then, guys. If that's everybody happy, then I'm going to sign off and don't know, make myself a bit of toast, I suppose.
Excellent.
Thanks, Alan.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Alan. See you.